The stars hung silent in the black void as the Vraxian science vessel Luminary drifted through the outer reaches of Council space. Captain Mork stood on the command deck, his 4 eyes scanning the holographic displays that surrounded him. The Luminary was on a routine survey mission, cataloging asteroids and scanning for useful minerals. Nothing exciting had happened in cycles. "Captain, I'm detecting an unusual energy signature," said Officer Dren, his voice breaking the quiet hum of the ship. "It's like nothing in our database." Mork moved to Dren's station. His interest peaked. After 20 cycles of exploration, genuine surprises were rare. "Show me." The display shifted to reveal a small craft moving at surprising speed. Its design was unfamiliar, all sharp angles and exposed thrusters. No Council species built ships like that. "Origin?" asked Mork. "Unknown, sir, but based on its trajectory, it might be from the yellow star system we marked for future investigation last cycle." Mork's skin rippled with excitement. A new species. It would be the first contact in over 300 cycles. His name would be recorded in the Council archives. "Send standard greeting protocols on all frequencies," he ordered, "and notify the Council immediately." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. Minutes later, the strange vessel changed course, now heading directly toward them. "They've received our message," said Communications Officer Pelk. "They're responding with some kind of data packet. It contains images, sound patterns, and mathematical sequences. A primitive first contact protocol," noted Science Officer Trin. "But logical. They're establishing a baseline for communication." Captain Mork nodded. "Send our language package in return. Let's see if—" "Captain." Dren's voice rose with alarm. "They've activated their energy weapons." "Impossible," said Mork. "They couldn't have decoded our message that quickly." The displays showed power building in the foreign vessel's forward section. "It must be a misunderstanding," said Trin. "Perhaps this is their way of showing capability, not hostility." But Mork had not survived 2 decades in deep space by taking chances. "Shields up. Prepare a warning shot. Minimal power. Target their propulsion systems." The Luminary hummed as its defensive systems came online. A small pulse of energy shot toward the approaching craft. What happened next stunned everyone on the bridge. Instead of being deflected by shields as expected from any spacefaring race, the pulse hit the vessel directly. The small craft spun wildly, venting atmosphere. "They have no shields," gasped Trin. "How do they survive in space?" Mork felt a cold dread settle in his stomach. Status of their craft: damaged but functional. They're retreating. "Sir." The bridge crew watched as the strange vessel limped away, its speed impressive even with damaged engines. "We've received another transmission," said Pelk, his voice quiet. He played it through the ship's speakers. The sounds were harsh, unfamiliar. But the message translation matrix quickly decoded enough to understand 3 chilling words. "You will regret this." 12 days later, in the gleaming council chamber on Nexus Prime, representatives of the 12 most advanced species in the known galaxy debated the incident. "They are clearly primitives," said High Counselor Vex, his tentacles waving dismissively. "No shields, rudimentary weapons. The fact they've achieved space travel at all is surprising." "But their final message concerns me," countered Counselor Jura. "It suggested retribution." Science Director Loom projected images from the Luminary's encounter. "Analysis of their vessel indicates a species we've never encountered. They appear to call themselves humans." "What threat could they possibly pose?" asked Vex. "Even if they have more ships, our technology is centuries beyond theirs." Mork, standing at attention before the council, finally spoke. There was something in their response, a quickness, an adaptability. "I would caution against dismissing them." Vex laughed, a sound like rustling leaves. "Your caution is noted, Captain. But the Council has faced many emerging species over our 5,000 cycles of existence. These humans will either learn their place in the galactic order or fade into obscurity. As the council moved to other matters, Mork couldn't shake the feeling that something important had been missed. Somewhere in the darkness of space, the humans were planning their next move. And somehow, he knew they wouldn't simply fade away. 3 cycles passed without incident. The council worlds continued their peaceful existence, the encounter with the strange human vessel fading into distant memory for most. Only in classified reports and academic circles did the name human occasionally surface. On the research station orbiting Nexus Prime, Science Officer Zell hunched over his display, analyzing yet another intercepted transmission from the mysterious human homeworld. Though officially assigned to threat assessment, Zell had grown fascinated by these creatures. "Playing recording 17,342, he said to the empty lab. The air filled with sounds and images from Earth, scenes of conflict, but also of celebration, sadness, and joy. Humans were contradictory beings. They fought wars among themselves, yet composed music that moved Zell to emotions he couldn't name." A soft chime announced a visitor. Director Loom entered, her long form gliding smoothly across the floor. "Another late night, Zell. Your dedication is noted, but I question its necessity. The humans have clearly learned their lesson." Zell gestured to his displays. "With respect, Director, I'm not certain we understand these beings at all. Look at this. In just 3 cycles, they've doubled their space presence. Their technological advancement rate is concerning." Loom waved a dismissive limb. "All the emerging species show brief bursts of development. It will plateau." "What if it doesn't?" Zell pulled up more data. "These humans recover from setbacks with remarkable speed. After our encounter, instead of retreating, they accelerated their space program. They adapt. They learn from failure." "You sound almost admiring," Loom said, her tone cooling. "I'm being realistic. The Council's archives show no comparable species. The Council has dealt with thousands of emerging races over millennia, Zell, some aggressive, some peaceful, all eventually finding their proper place in the galactic hierarchy." Zell wanted to argue further, but knew it would only damage his standing. He needed to stay on this project. "Of course, Director. I'll complete my report by morning." After Loom left, Zell returned to the transmissions, focusing on human military communications. Something had changed recently. Their coded transmissions had become more frequent, their probes venturing closer to Council space. The humans were up to something. Across the galaxy, on the Vraxian defense outpost near the border of Council space, Junior Officer Kip was completing his first solo shift on the long-range scanner array. The job was simple but tedious. Monitor the sensors, report any anomalies, and most importantly, don't fall asleep. Kip stifled a yawn. Nothing ever happened here. This posting was a punishment, not an honor, the result of a practical joke gone wrong at the Academy. As his eyes began to drift close, a small alert flashed on his console. He straightened, suddenly alert. The signal was faint but definite. An object moving at high speed toward Vraxian space. Kip ran the standard identification protocols. Nothing matched. "Probably just debris," he muttered, but followed procedure and elevated the alert. At Central Command, Captain Dawes received the notification with annoyance. These junior officers were always jumping at shadows. He almost dismissed it, but paused when he saw the object's velocity. Too fast for natural debris, too direct for a random trajectory. "Send a probe to investigate," he ordered. 2 hours later, the probe sent back images that froze Dawes's blood. The approaching vessel was massive, at least 10 times the size of their largest cruiser. Its hull bore unfamiliar markings, but the design had echoes of that small craft from 3 cycles ago. The vessel's energy readings were off the charts. Dawes's hands shook as he activated the emergency broadcast to all Vraxian territories and the Council beyond. His voice cracked as he spoke the words that would soon ripple across the galaxy. "Alert! A human war vessel is closing in." In the Council chambers, The 12 representatives were jolted from their usual deliberations by the emergency transmission. Silence fell as they watched the probe footage. "Impossible," whispered High Counselor Vex. "They couldn't have advanced this quickly." In his research lab, Zell watched the same footage with a mixture of fear and fascination. Unlike the others, he wasn't surprised. He had seen this coming in 1,000 human transmissions, in their stories of determination and their history of turning defeat into motivation. The only surprise was that it had happened so soon. The humans were coming, and they were ready. The HSS Retribution hung in space like a metal predator, its dark hull absorbing rather than reflecting starlight. At nearly 2 kilometers long, the warship dwarfed anything the Vraxians had ever built. Inside the command center, Captain Jack stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the alien vessels scramble into defensive positions on the main view screen. "They're forming a blockade," reported First Officer Maria. 17 ships total. Jack nodded, his face showing no emotion. 3 years of preparation had led to this moment. 3 years since the Horizon, Earth's first deep space scout ship, had limped home with 6 dead crew members and a broken hull. 3 years of humanity working with single-minded purpose, united by grief and determination. "Open a channel," Jack ordered. "All frequencies they might understand." Maria tapped at her console. "Channel open, sir." Jack squared his shoulders. "This is Captain Jack of the human starship Retribution. We come seeking justice, not war. The unprovoked attack on our vessel 3 years ago requires answers. We request immediate communication with your highest authority." On the Vraxian command ship, Admiral Tor felt his scales tighten against his body, an instinctive fear response he hadn't experienced since his youth. The human vessel before them should not exist. It was too advanced, too powerful for a species they had dismissed as primitive just 3 cycles ago. "They're requesting communication, sir," his communications officer said. "Ignore them," Tor ordered. "Prepare all weapons. On my command, we will." "Sir." They're inside our defense grid." Tor spun toward the display. Somehow, the massive human ship had moved, simply vanished from its position, and reappeared directly in front of the Vraxian flagship. Such technology was theoretical at best, even for the most advanced Council species. "Fire!" Tor shouted, panic rising in his throat. The Vraxian ships launched their attacks simultaneously. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes streaked toward the Retribution, only to disappear into shimmering distortions around the human vessel. "Their shields are absorbing everything," said the weapons officer, his voice trembling. "No damage registered." Before Tor could issue another command, his ship shuddered violently. Warning lights flashed across every console. All systems failing. Engines offline. Weapons offline. Even life support is running on emergency power. Similar reports came in from every ship in the Vraxian fleet. Not destroyed, merely disabled, as if swatted aside by an annoyed giant. The communication system crackled to life without Tor's command. Captain Jack's voice filled the bridge. "That was a demonstration, not an attack. Had we wished to destroy you, you would no longer exist. We have disabled your vessels temporarily. You will power down all remaining systems and await further instructions." In the Great Council chamber on Nexus Prime, chaos reigned. The 12 representatives argued loudly as emergency reports flooded in. The Vraxian Defense Fleet, one of the strongest in Council space, had been neutralized without a single casualty. "How is this possible?" demanded Councilor Jura. 3 cycles ago they had no shields, and now they moved between points in space instantly. High Counselor Vex pounded his control panel. "We must mobilize all Council forces immediately." Science Director Loom's normally composed features showed strain. "The human ship has already jumped to our sector. It will reach Nexus Prime in 6 hours. A hush fell over the chamber. 6 hours was not enough time to evacuate even a fraction of the planet's population. "We must negotiate," said a quiet voice. All eyes turned to Science Officer Zell, who had been summoned to provide insight on human behavior. They explicitly stated they seek justice, not war. Their actions support this. They disabled, not destroyed. Negotiate with primitives. Vex sputtered. Absurd. They are hardly primitive now, Zell replied. And I believe they are showing remarkable restraint, given what we did to their exploration vessel. As the council debated, Captain Jack received a transmission from Earth Command. Phase 1 complete, Captain, said General White. The council is in disarray, just as predicted. The rest of the fleet is ready to deploy at your signal. Jack nodded. Tell them to hold position. The Retribution has made our point. Let's see if the council is wise enough to talk before we show them just how many ships humanity has built. He turned to Maria. Set course for their capital world. It's time they learned that humans don't make threats. They make promises. The Retribution vanished from Braxian space, leaving behind 17 powerless warships and a tremor of fear that spread quickly across the galaxy. The impossible had happened. Humans had arrived on the galactic stage not as supplicants, but as equals, perhaps even superiors, to the ancient council races. And they wanted answers. The council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Lisa walked in. She was shorter than most of the alien representatives expected, her simple blue uniform lacking the ornate decorations that marked status among council species. Yet every eye followed her movement across the polished floor. Power didn't always announce itself with flash and noise. We thank the council for agreeing to this meeting, Lisa said, her voice calm but carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. Behind her stood 2 human guards, their posture relaxed but alert. High Counselor Vex leaned forward on his platform. The council did not agree to anything. Your warship sits in orbit above our capital world. This is coercion, not diplomacy. Lisa smiled slightly, and yet here we are, talking instead of fighting. That's diplomacy, Counselor, regardless of how we arrived at this table. She placed a small device on the center platform. It projected a hologram showing the damaged human scout ship from 3 years ago. The Horizon, our first venture into your space, unarmed, on a mission of peaceful exploration. The image shifted to show the bodies of the dead crew members. 6 lives lost when your vessel fired without provocation. Whispers rippled through the chamber. Many council members had never seen the full report. Our ship fired a warning shot after your vessel activated weapons, countered Counselor Jura. Lisa tapped the device again. A new recording played, the actual sensor data from the Horizon. Our ship was scanning your vessel with standard sensors, not targeting systems. Your captain misinterpreted and fired. These are the facts. Even if true, said Vex, your response is wildly disproportionate. One misunderstanding does not justify threatening an entire planet. We sought communication for 3 years. Our messages were ignored. Our ambassadors denied entry to council space. Lisa's voice hardened slightly. The Retribution gained your attention when nothing else would. From his observer seat, Science Officer Zell studied the human with fascination. In all his research, he had never expected to meet one in person. Lisa moved and spoke differently than the council representatives, more directly, with fewer ceremonial flourishes. Humans were refreshingly blunt. Councillor Trell, leader of the militant Dwarven species, rose from his seat. His species resembled large reptiles, with armored skin and powerful jaws. Let us be honest about what's happening, Trell said, his voice a low rumble. These humans have shown unexpected strength. Now they make demands. But what happens after we satisfy these demands? Will they be content to return to their corner of space? He looked directly at Lisa. I think not. Their advancement rate is unprecedented. In another 3 cycles, what will stop them from ruling us all? The logical solution is clear. We must eliminate this threat now, while we still can. Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber. Such open talk of extermination violated diplomatic protocols. Lisa remained unnervingly calm. Counselor Trell, I understand your concern, A new species appearing with advanced technology is frightening. But let me be clear about human intentions. She tapped her device again. The hologram shifted to show the positions of multiple large vessels at key points throughout Council space. The Retribution is not alone. These ships moved into position while we've been talking. Each could have targeted your major worlds. None have fired a single shot. The Council chamber erupted in shocked voices. You dare threaten us directly? Vex shouted over the noise. Not a threat. A demonstration of restraint, Lisa replied. If humans were the warmongers you fear, this meeting would not be happening. Your worlds would already be at our mercy. She walked slowly around the central platform, making eye contact with each council member. Humanity wants only three things: acknowledgement of the unprovoked attack, reasonable reparations for the families of the dead, and a seat at the council table. We offer fair trade, technological exchange, and mutual defense in return. Zell found himself nodding. The terms were surprisingly moderate given the humans' position of strength. We will need time to discuss these terms, said Vex, trying to regain control of the situation. Of course, Lisa said. You have 1 week. After that, we will assume negotiations have failed. As Lisa turned to leave, Councillor Trell made a subtle gesture to an aide. Zell noticed the exchange and felt a chill. Something was happening behind the scenes, something the humans needed to know. The council session ended, but the real drama was just beginning. As night fell on Nexus Prime, Zell made his decision. He would risk everything to prevent what he now suspected was coming. A secret plan to eliminate humanity before they could change the galactic order forever. The ancient archives beneath Nexus Prime were silent and dark, lit only by the soft glow of Zell's portable scanner. He moved quickly through the narrow corridors, his heart racing. Being here without authorization meant execution if he was caught, but what he had discovered in the classified council records had left him no choice. The records room door opened with a soft hiss as Zell pressed his stolen access chip against the lock. Inside, data crystals lined the walls from floor to ceiling, each containing thousands of years of council history. He knew exactly which section he needed. Species intervention protocols, he whispered, finding the correct shelf. His fingers moved rapidly, copying files to his secure drive. The official history claimed the Council had guided hundreds of emerging species to peaceful integration. The truth, as Zell was discovering, was far darker. For millennia, the Council had been systematically eliminating species they deemed evolutionary threats, races that showed unusual adaptability, aggression, or technological growth rates. The files contained detailed plans for biological warfare, engineered conflicts, and in some cases, direct planetary sterilization. All perfectly documented, all officially sanctioned, and humans were next on their list. The first encounter with the Horizon had been no accident. The Vraxian ship had been ordered to provoke a response that would justify classification of humans as inherently aggressive. What the Council hadn't expected was the speed of human advancement, or their arrival before the elimination plans were ready. A sound from the corridor froze Zell in place. Voices approached, security doing their rounds. He quickly pocketed his drive and slipped behind a tall data shelf, barely breathing as the guards passed by the door without entering. Once they were gone, Zell made his way out through maintenance tunnels he had memorized from old building plans. His mind raced with the horrible truth. He needed to get this information to the humans before it was too late. On board the Retribution, Captain Jack reviewed security footage from Ambassador Lisa's meeting with the Council. Something about Councillor Trell's behavior troubled him. Play that section again, he told Maria. Focus on Trell's hand movements when he mentions elimination. The footage replayed, zooming in on Trell's subtle gesture to his aide. That's a military signal, Jack said. I've seen it before in our studies of Dwarven culture. He's activating something. A soft chime announced an incoming communication. Sir, said the communications officer, we're detecting an unauthorized shuttle approaching from the surface. It's requesting emergency docking. The pilot claims to have critical information about Council plans against Earth. Scan for weapons or explosives, Jack ordered. If it's clean, allow docking in the quarantine bay. Full security protocols. 20 minutes later, Zell stood nervously in the Retribution's conference room, surrounded by armed humans. Ambassador Lisa studied him with curious eyes. "You're taking an enormous risk coming here," she said. "Why?" Zell placed his data drive on the table. "Because what my people are planning is wrong. The Council has systematically eliminated 17 species over the past 10,000 cycles, species they feared might one day challenge their power." Captain Jack's face darkened as Zell explained the contents of the files. Lisa reviewed the data, her expression growing more troubled with each passing minute. "These files confirm it," she said finally. "The attack on the horizon was deliberate provocation. And there's more. They've been developing a bioweapon specifically designed to target human DNA. They plan to release it on Earth within the month," Zell added. "Your arrival disrupted their timeline, but Counselor Trell is pushing to accelerate the plan. That's why they asked for a week to consider your terms. They're stalling while they prepare to strike." Jack's hands tightened into fists. "We came seeking justice for 6 dead crew members. We've discovered a conspiracy to commit genocide. What will you do?" Zell asked, unable to hide the fear in his voice. He had betrayed his people, and now humans held the power to destroy them in retaliation. Jack and Lisa exchanged a long look, having a silent conversation through years of working together. "First, we verify everything," Jack said finally. "Then we show the Council species exactly what their leaders have been doing in their name for thousands of years." Lisa nodded. "The truth is our most powerful weapon. Not every Council member is part of this conspiracy." "And if the truth isn't enough?" Zell asked. Jack's expression turned grim. "Then we demonstrate why eliminating humans would have been their greatest mistake." As they spoke, in a hidden facility deep beneath Nexus Prime, Counselor Trell watched as his scientists put the finishing touches on the human bioweapon. In 3 days, it would be ready. If he had his way, the question of humanity's place in the galaxy would be permanently resolved. The countdown to either peace or destruction had begun. The Council chamber was packed beyond capacity. News of an emergency session had spread across Nexus Prime, drawing representatives from every Council species. Even the viewing galleries, normally reserved for dignitaries, were filled with common citizens. High Counselor Vex took his position at the center platform. "This emergency session will now begin. The human deadline expires today. We must decide our response to their demands." The great doors at the far end of the chamber swung open. Ambassador Lisa entered, but this time she was not alone. Captain Jack walked beside her, along with Science Officer Zell. Seeing one of their own with the humans sent a ripple of shock through the crowd. "The humans have been granted time to speak," announced Vex, his voice strained. "After which, the Council will vote on Counselor Trell's proposal for decisive action." Jack surveyed the chamber, his military training helping him identify key security positions. Everything was in place. He nodded to Lisa. "Esteemed Council members," Lisa began, her voice clear and strong. "1 week ago, I presented terms for peaceful relations between humanity and the Galactic Council. Today, we are not here to discuss those terms." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Counselor Trell shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Instead," continued Lisa, "we are here to present evidence of crimes committed by Council leadership against not only humanity, but 17 other species across 10,000 years." She activated a small device. The central holographic display came to life, showing Zell's stolen files, records of deliberate extinctions, biological warfare, and manufactured conflicts. These records show that certain Council leaders have been systematically eliminating any species they consider a potential rival, Lisa said. Species targeted not for aggression, but for traits like rapid adaptation and technological innovation. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Many Council members rose to their feet, demanding explanations. "This is human propaganda," shouted Counselor Trell, standing. "Security, seize these files." "The files have already been transmitted to every public information network in Council space," said Jack, his voice cutting through the chaos. "The truth cannot be contained." Zell stepped forward. "As science officer with level 9 clearance, I verify these records as authentic. I discovered them in our sealed archives." "Traitor," hissed Trell. He pressed a concealed button on his wrist device. Instantly, security doors around the chamber sealed shut. Warning lights flashed as the ventilation system changed its flow pattern. "What have you done?" demanded Vex, turning to Trell. Trell's face showed no remorse. "What should have been done days ago? The air system is now circulating the human bioweapon. It will affect only their DNA pattern. The 2 humans will die, and within days, so will every human in their home system when our automated delivery vessels arrive." Horror spread across the faces of many council members. This was not a military action they had voted on. It was an unauthorized genocide. Jack smiled, which confused everyone present. "We suspected you might try something like this," he said calmly. "The bioweapon won't work on us because we're not actually here." His form flickered, as did Lisa's. They were holograms, perfect in every detail, but not physically present. "The humans in this room are special operatives in isolation suits," Jack continued, his projected image gesturing to the guards who had accompanied Lisa. "And your automated delivery vessels were intercepted 3 hours ago." Trell's face drained of color. "Impossible." The real ambassador Lisa's voice came through the chamber's communication system. "Captain Jack and I are currently aboard the Retribution with Counselor Trell's chief scientist, who was kind enough to provide the antidote formula after seeing the evidence of the Council's past crimes." On cue, the chamber's main screen showed Lisa standing next to a nervous-looking Dwarven scientist on the Retribution's bridge. More importantly, Lisa continued, "5 minutes ago, human ships took control of the bioweapon facility beneath the planetary surface. Your weapon has been neutralized." Counselor Jura stood, her voice shaking with anger. "Counselor Trell has acted without authorization. His actions do not represent the will of the full council." Other council members quickly voiced their agreement, distancing themselves from Trell's plot. Security forces, those loyal to the council as a whole rather than to Trell's faction, moved to surround the Dwarven counselor. His supporters found themselves similarly contained. Jack's hologram addressed the chamber one final time. "The human fleet could destroy your worlds in response to this attempted genocide. Instead, we offer a choice." The chamber fell silent, waiting. "Justice or extinction," Jack said simply. "The difference is that we're giving you the choice the Council never gave those 17 species." The vote that followed would change the course of galactic history forever. 6 months later, the great observation deck of the HSS Unity hummed with activity. The newly commissioned vessel was the largest ever built by human hands, designed not for war, but for cooperation. Its massive central chamber hosted representatives from 23 species, the 12 original council races, and 11 who had been previously excluded from galactic politics. Captain Jack watched from a side gallery as Ambassador Lisa addressed the gathered delegates. Her simple blue uniform now bore the insignia of the new Galactic Alliance, a spiral galaxy with stars of different colors representing diverse species working together. "The first session of the Galactic Alliance Council is now in progress," Lisa announced. "Today marks a new chapter in our shared history." Jack caught Zell's eye across the chamber. The former science officer now served as the lead representative for his people. The revolution that had swept through council space had elevated new leaders who rejected the old patterns of domination and extinction. Counselor Trell and his co-conspirators had faced justice, not execution, as would have been their fate under the old council, but permanent exile to a comfortable yet isolated world. Human justice had proven both firm and merciful, surprising many who had expected vengeful retribution. In the months since the confrontation at Nexus Prime, Humans had shared medical and technological advancements with their new allies. Earth's scientists worked alongside alien researchers to solve problems that had plagued various species for generations. Human psychology experts helped heal the cultural trauma inflicted by centuries of council manipulation. "The floor recognizes Representative Zell," said Lisa. Zell moved to the central platform. "The Science Cooperative has completed its review of the sealed archives. 17 species were eliminated by the former council leadership. For 3 of these species, we have discovered preserved genetic samples that may allow restoration through cloning technologies." Murmurs of approval spread through the chamber. The prospect of restoring extinct civilizations had united scientists from dozens of worlds. Additionally, Zell continued, "Humanity has offered to share their quantum communication technology with all Alliance members, eliminating the communication delays that have hindered true cooperation across our galaxy." In his private thoughts, Jack marveled at how quickly things had changed. 6 months ago, the HSS Retribution had appeared over Nexus Prime as an instrument of justice and potential retribution. Many on Earth had wanted to use their newfound power to punish the entire Council, to assume the dominant position in the galaxy by force. Instead, humanity had chosen a different path. By exposing the truth and offering cooperation instead of conquest, they had sparked genuine change. The old council had collapsed from within as ordinary citizens of each species demanded accountability from their representatives. Jack's communicator chimed softly. A message from Captain Mork, the Vraxian who had fired on the horizon 3 years ago. After the truth of his orders had come to light, Mork had been one of the first to join the reformers. Now he commanded a joint human-Vraxian expedition to the galaxy's edge, exploring regions no council ship had ever visited. Discovered habitable world beyond the Cygnus Arm. Mork's message read, "Primitive but promising species developing early spaceflight, requesting Alliance First Contact protocols. Will maintain observation only until instructions received." Jack smiled. The First Contact protocols, designed jointly by humans and reformed council scientists, ensured no developing species would ever again be judged solely on their potential threat level. Each would be given the chance to join the galactic community when ready, without interference or elimination. After the chamber session ended, Jack found himself standing with Lisa and Zell on the observation deck, watching the stars. "Do you ever regret it?" Zell asked. "You could have taken control of the galaxy. Many humans wanted revenge." "That's not who we are," Jack replied. "Or at least, not who we choose to be. Humanity's strength has never been in our capacity for destruction." "What then?" asked Zell. Lisa answered, "Our capacity for forgiveness, for seeing possibility where others see threat, for choosing tomorrow over yesterday." As they spoke, a small craft approached the Unity, the first diplomatic vessel from a newly contacted species on the rim of known space. Another civilization ready to join the growing alliance. Another chance to get it right. The old council's warning, "Alert, a human war vessel is closing in," had become a relic of history. Now, when human ships appeared in distant systems, they were welcomed as partners and protectors. The galaxy had learned that human strength lay not just in their technology or determination, but in their ability to rise above the cycle of fear and retribution that had defined galactic politics for millennia. And in doing so, humanity had not just secured its place among the stars, it had transformed the stars themselves into something brighter.